Welcome back to another episode of Dependasplaining, a podcast. Stay tuned for the movie. We always say the podcast like there's something else going on in this world.
Yeah. Like you don't know that you actually opened a podcast and listening to a podcast. But
Yeah,
just
there's
in
no
case
other
you forgot.
version of the Dependasplaining. So don't get confused.
No. We're not an audiobook.
We're not?
We're not a TV show.
Okay.
Not yet.
But if we were...
Or a movie, but
if
you
we
never
were,
know.
My co-star is Jen. And I am Veronica.
Yeah, the amazing and talented Veronica.
Here I am.
Here she is.
Where I've always been. Sitting on this recliner.
There you are.
With the microphone shoved in my face.
But I'm so jealous. You have such a comfy chair. Every time we do this, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had a chair like that. I'm sitting on a wooden chair.
You need to get yourself a little something in there in your little closet. This recliner was in the living room. We rearranged our living room and we ended up getting two chairs. And it is my favorite spot to sit in to drink my coffee in the mornings when I'm watching something. And I just turn the TV towards me and I sit here quiet. So when I was recovering from COVID, this is where I spent, my quarantine. Here reading in this chair.
Yeah.
It was fun.
So nice. I just think about it, I'm like, man, I wish I had a house like Veronica. I can't even fit barely my dresser in my bedroom, so but I have a walk-in closet, because I sit and record in it every day. So that's
we
a plus.
We have a walk-in closet too. It's on the smaller side, but it does its business. But our room is really long, but it's narrow. Mm-hmm. So we have a king size bed and it's up against the headboard is up against the wall of the way. And then the footboard, the space between the footboard and the wall is a tile and 3/4 of the other tile. It's really small.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was telling somebody this the other day. I was like, it's enough room for us to walk. My shoulders do brush up against the wall. But if I'm in a hurry, I find myself doing like a sideways shuffle because the space is so limited. But you know what? I'm like, it's fine. Like I don't spend that much time in the room. We're usually out and about in the living room or whatever, hanging out with the kids. But it's really not that big of a deal. It's not, I don't know. Yeah. It doesn't bother me that it's so close to the wall. But we're very limited on the space there. And then we have this giant other space where we can fit an entire other king size bed. So we have our dressers and the recliner. And I work out in here. I have enough space to work out.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's all right.
That's nice.
That's nice. That's enough about me.
I had to tell you, the other night I played Bunko.
Oh.
So, like, actually twice a month, because I do it with the spouses group, and then we have our own Bunko group that we do Bunko, obviously. Good God, Jen. Anyway, so since, like, I don't know, October, we've been playing Bunko twice a month, and, we get together, and our husbands are just like, what, you're playing this Bunko again? Like, what's the deal? So my friend Catherine's genius idea was like, hey, let's do a Bunko event with our spouses so they can see what we do and they can play Bunko with us. Yeah. And we're like, yeah, that's great. And then she had an even better idea to have a theme for our event, and it was Dress as Your Spouse Bunko.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious.
That's
it was so funny. The creativity that everybody had to come in, like, I was blown away. It was great. I felt I wasn't that creative, but it worked. Like, my kids thought I was Dave, and they thought Dave was me. So it worked out. I wore his old basic training PT sweatshirt that said Air Force on it. And then under that, I had one of his tank tops and then his gym shorts, because that's basically what David wears all the time.
Yeah.
Is just comfy gym clothes. And then David dressed in one of my long tank top maxi dresses. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, please tell me you have pictures.
Yes, there are pictures for proof.
Please send them to me. I'm dying to see it. Send it. Put it on the Facebook.
Put it out. Everyone gets to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was super funny. We had one of our friends showed up, and you know, like the guys side is kind of easy because you know they dress, you know, basic.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like
Yeah.
we're not like all like super fancy and stuff, you know. But our friends from across the street showed up, and oh my God, my friend killed it in dressing as her spouse. Like, she came in, she had a sweatshirt on, she had a backwards cap, his shorts, his Nike shoes, and she even put a little like mustache. Like, he doesn't have a full mustache; it's just kind of like
stubble.
The 5 o'clock.
Oh yeah,
the stubble.
Yeah,
and so I was like. Not only that, she also colored her eyebrows to match his. I was like, oh my God,
that's so
amazing.
funny.
Oh, I highly recommend that everyone try out a Dress as Your Spouse event. Do something. Do something to do it because it's just hilarious, especially to see all the men that came in. Our friends that we did it at their house, he dressed in her cropped yoga leggings and this like flowy top that like showed had like the shoulder cutouts. Oh my God. And then our other friend Catherine, who's the bunko queen, who does all the bunko events, her husband came in one of her like flowy short dresses, and he was wearing his basketball shorts underneath so you could see it. Oh my God, it was so funny.
That is hilarious.
It was hilarious. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's just one of those that you got to try it.
Yeah.
Have to try it.
Oh gosh.
Have an event.
The amount of cargo shorts that Kyle has in every shade of beige. Like, oh, that's awesome. And then Kyle would probably put on, what do I wear a lot? Leggings, probably gym workout clothes.
Yep. Yeah.
Bulge and all.
Yep. Our one of our friends too, her husband showed up in her skinny jeans.
Yeah.
And a shirt which was like cropped, so you had like a good few inches of his belly showing too.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
It was hilarious. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I would love. You have to send me pictures. I want to see those pictures.
I will. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Don't you even worry. Yeah. It was good. It was good. But I'm peopled out now.
You're peopled out. Oh.
I'm peopled out.
Oh, well, hi. This is our Dependasplaining podcast.
Yes.
If you have any fun stories.
Where we talk to you about different things.
Yes. And if you have any fun stories about themed parties or any ideas, send your ideas to dependasplaining@gmail.com or reach out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And don't forget to rate and subscribe on your favorite listening platforms.
Yes.
Okay.
Where you can. Do it. All right, Veronica, are you ready for murder?
Totes.
Oh, yes. So, in my story, I have a little, like, not really history lessons, but just some, like, extra facts, because I didn't even know about some things, and so I'll give you a little extra.
Okay.
In your murder. A little extra sugar on top.
Ooh. Sprinkle of murder?
Sprinkle of murder. All right. So, this is the murder of Julie Snodgrass. Snodgrass. I kept saying it in my head, too, and I was like, that's kind of funny. Anyway. In 1991, Air Force spouse Julie Snodgrass, who was 33, was living with her husband, Air Force Sergeant Joe Snodgrass, at Clark Air Force Base in the Philippines.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, see, I didn't know about that. I was like, oh, David, I didn't know there was a base in the Philippines. He's like, yeah, there's bases everywhere. At least there was.
I don't know if it's still there. No.
Okay. It's not. Joe was an agent in the Air Force OSI. Julie and Joe met at a bowling alley, and they got married just shortly after Julie graduated high school.
Aww.
It was a cute little story of her mom had said they met at a bowling alley. It was like a group of boys and a group of girls, and the bowling alley was super busy, so the lane manager had to assign people lanes, and he ended up assigning the lane with Julie and Joe,
okay.
and that's how they met. So Julie was no stranger to Air Force life, moving from Germany, Great Britain, Montana, and Arkansas before being stationed in the Philippines. Clark Air Force Base was located about 40 miles northwest of Metro Manila and was an active U.S. military base from 1903 to 1991. So just shortly after they were already there, it shut down. But Julie was having a hard time adjusting to living in the Philippines. She's a very fun, outgoing person. You know, she's lived overseas many times, but the Philippines proved to be a little bit harder for her to get used to.
Oh, that's understandable.
Yeah. On February 25th, 1991, Joe called to report his wife missing. He claimed that they had an argument and Julie left. According to base records, Julie left around 10:30 at night, which I thought... So I watched the forensic files on this, and I thought it was super interesting that they had to physically sign in and out of base on paper. So, like, they have a recorded log of her signing herself out at 10:30.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Right? I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you know, maybe, you know, you would think like, oh, they checked an ID and then they wrote it down. No, like you could tell that was her handwriting because everybody's name around hers was a different handwriting. So,
oh, okay.
Fascinating. Again, see, little tidbits. But once Julie left, she never returned. In the early morning of February 26th, a cab driver found Julie's truck on the side of a country road with Julie's body inside. She had been stabbed repeatedly, around 40 times. She was also still in her seatbelt, and the driver's side door was ajar, which had indicated to them that she was trying to escape. Once police started to investigate the scene, they noticed lots of blood inside the truck, all around except for the passenger seat. This indicated that someone had to have been sitting in that seat while stabbing her.
Oh, and they just left their imprint.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was just like this. You could see like there was blood next to the passenger door, then this big empty space, and then blood like more towards the middle driver's side.
Okay. So maybe someone she knew.
Could have been.
Yeah.
So you could just tell that there was somebody sitting in there. So they were probably covered in blood too.
Okay.
And in a field nearby, police found a folding knife covered with Julie's blood. So her husband Joe never left the base that night of February 25th, so he was not considered a suspect at that time. So during this time frame, and even like maybe 10 years prior, a number of Americans had been killed by the New People's Army, or NPA, which was a wing of the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP. But with further investigation, it became clear that her murder was a lot closer to home. Investigators became intrigued by the rumor of problems in the Snodgrass home. They had learned that Joe and his wife had once been separated, and they even had gotten divorced, but then got remarried.
Oh.
Yeah. Lots of, I don't know. That's just, I mean, it happens. That happens where, you know, you're changing and you just, it doesn't seem like it's working. You get divorced. Especially, and then, you know, it ends up coming back.
Yeah, especially because she was so young when they first got married. So maybe she had a change of heart somewhere and then another change of heart and went back to him. Okay.
Yeah.
It happens.
So, I mean, not totally weird, but definitely something that they were like, that's interesting. They were also told they should start questioning the Snodgrass's housekeeper, a 20-something Filipino local named Lucy. While being questioned, Lucy had denied having an affair with Joe, but the Snodgrass' son, according to an interview on Forensic Files, knew that something wasn't right. And he knew because one day he happened to walk into his mom and dad's bedroom and he saw his dad doing something he shouldn't be doing with Lucy.
Okay.
But he was just a child, so, that's not enough evidence to charge her with anything there.
I'm guessing he didn't walk in on them with helping her dust.
Yeah, I don't think they were dusting.
Yeah.
No vacuuming to be found. Air Force OSI then interviewed her 3 or 4 more times, each time finding inconsistencies in her stories. And then, in a bombshell, Lucy admits to killing 33-year-old Julie Snodgrass.
She just admitted to it?
She admitted to it.
Oh.
They interviewed her a bunch of times, and they could just tell, like, each time her story kept changing, things were different, they weren't, she then started to, like, progress towards this, to her admitting it, and then finally just... So, Lucy explains that Joe had come to her in his offer, Lucy explains that Joe had come to her with this offer to kill his wife, telling her he could offer her a new life in the United States, plus he would be making $400,000 in life insurance that he had just taken out on his wife.
But why offer it to her? Anyways, we'll come back to that.
We'll get there. With the prospect of money and a new life, the offer lured Lucy in. She hired her 2 uncles, and they hired one more unidentified man for $150 cash to be the hitman.
That's, oh my gosh, $150?
So $150, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's that much money, but at this time in the Philippines, it actually was a lot because their unemployment rate was at 60%.
Yikes.
So most employed Filipinos, if not all of them, were working to take care of 10 to even 15 family members who were not working.
Because they're very close in that culture, so they tend to take care of other generations as well.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I heard that's still like a thing. Like they still continue to do it now, but in this time, the unemployment rate was so high that they were struggling. Any little bit of money
was a good offer. Okay.
Yeah, was a great offer. So Joe Snodgrass devised a plan, and then he sat back and hoped it would pan out. He had asked Julie to run an errand for him that night, asking her to meet an informant he knew late at night I think one of them had said it was for a payment that he owed. I don't know. But, like, why? When I heard that, I was like, why? Why would she be okay? Like, I don't know. I guess because I'm not involved in OSI, so I don't know, like, what. But I just feel like the wife should not be the one to go meet somebody late at night in a dark dirt road.
Right. It's all shady all around.
Yeah.
Right.
But I guess she didn't really question it. She just was like, sure, I'll help you.
Trusted, yeah.
But that left her alone and vulnerable for Lucy's uncles to carry out the job. So investigators then questioned Joe, to which he called Lucy a liar. He gave consent for OSI to search his house, which I was like, wow, you're bold. But when they searched his house, they found paperwork under his bed of his wife's life insurance policy.
Oh.
And they were like, Joe, why is this under your bed? And he's like, oh, yeah, I was hoping you guys wouldn't find that, like, because it would just look super suspicious. So I was hoping you wouldn't find that. Because he had just recently increased her policy from $200,000 to $400,000.
Okay.
Within a matter of a week or so. Investigators then found some evidence on Joe's work computer. Well, not exactly on his computer, but around his computer, they found a couple of floppy disks which is what we used to use before CDs.
Before flash drives.
They were square.
Before hard drives. They were literally
Before
floppy.
any of that.
Well, back in the 90s, Jen, before you even got to use a computer, because I'm sure you're from the era of an actual, like, disc. Remember, like, you could insert it and it was like a little square.
Yes.
It was an actual floppy-ass disc that came in a floppy-ass envelope. Yeah.
That's why they call them floppy disks.
Yeah, so that's what you would put the thing in the computer, and it was floppy, and it came like in a really velvety feeling envelope, like a papery. I still remember the texture of it. And then they became the little squares with the like metal tab on the side. And then they were CDs, and then they became hard drives and flash drives, and now everything's on your computer. If you didn't know,
you don't need anything.
Now you know.
Now you know. Yes. Yeah, so these floppy disks, they were they were the square ones, and they have like a disc inside of them surrounded by this plastic square. So they found these on his desk, and they had suspicions that they might have some evidence against Joe on them.
Okay.
But unfortunately, since he works in OSI as well, he was already informed that they were going to bring him in to question this evidence.
That's right. He was OSI. Sorry, I forgot about that bit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the ends.
So yes, they found a couple of floppy disks, and they thought they might have evidence against him on there. But before they could actually check them, they had to make sure that they actually belonged to Joe.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to bring him in to question him on these disks. But of course, he works in OSI, so yes, he was informed about this interview, and he came prepared.
Oh.
He had concealed a pair of scissors, and once they had brought out the floppy disk, Joe knew what he had to do. The investigators had turned away. They were distracted for only a moment when Joe sprang into action, cutting up the discs into tiny pieces. Now, if that doesn't ring total suspicion, I don't know what is.
They'll never catch me now.
Yeah. But, I mean, it is the early 90s, 91. So, repairing these discs and being able to extract data from them was almost near impossible. No one's ever done it before.
Okay.
It's never been, a thing. They were telling so the investigators then were sending them off to their computer forensics lab.
Mm-hmm.
But the computer forensics lab was like, I don't know how to fix this. Like, I can try.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can repair it enough to get the data off. One place told them, like, oh, it could take months to a year.
Wow.
In order to even get this done. And it could take up to, it could cost you up to like $1 million.
Yikes.
But they're like, we really just need to try. We need to try. So the investigators had faith that they would be able to do this. So when they sent it off to the computer forensics lab, it only took them a mere, I think it was a few weeks. Sorry, I didn't write that down. But really, it didn't take them long. They managed to find a way to put the pieces back together and extract some of the evidence off of the floppy disk. It's never been done. And this is what started their first, the first, I forgot what they called it. It was a new way to extract information through a forensics lab, computer forensics lab.
Oh.
And on that floppy disk, they found a letter to his mistress asking him to help him kill his wife.
Oh.
So there is your evidence. Boom.
Skadoosh.
After being confronted by this evidence, Sergeant Snodgrass pled guilty to soliciting his wife's murder because obviously, like, you can't go back from the evidence.
He's got the evidence. And just the way he acted in trying to destroy the evidence.
Yeah, he knew he was going to get convicted either way.
Yeah.
He was sentenced to life in a military prison without parole. Now, Lucy, however, was convicted by a Philippine court. I mean, of course, she's a local.
Right.
But she was only sentenced to a year in prison. And her 2 uncles served similar sentences.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah. She only a year for being a role in his wife's murder. The uncles who carried out said murder only served maybe a year or so in prison.
Oh my gosh. I wonder if it was... No, but I mean, it was... I was going to say if it applied differently because it was an American, but it was done on Philippine soil.
Yeah, it was not on base. We know her record. She left base and did not come back in. So
yeah,
it was not on,
gosh,
on the base at all.
That's it. That's all I got.
Mm-hmm. And there was, because it was her 2 uncles, and her 2 uncles hired another man. They still have never been able to identify who that 3rd man was. It's crazy. So, yep. I mean, he got his justice, thank goodness. But that is unfortunately the very sad, tragic murder of Julie Snodgrass.
Poor thing. That's awful with this husband, and you're so far away from home, from your family. There's nowhere to turn to if you're having marital issues. And then him betraying her by being unfaithful. And then thinking he's going to have a better life with this younger woman. And her being like, okay, what do you think is going to happen later on, dummy? If he's leaving his wife, who he's married twice.
Yes, exactly.
Wants to kill her to be with you. You don't think that could happen to you? And you're just playing along with it? For $150. He's
going to get a life insurance policy on you too and get the money from that as well.
Money makes
he's greedy.
People crazy.
All he cares about is the money.
Yeah. Money
it
makes
does.
People crazy.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
It blows my mind. The amount of ones that we always end up finding that it always has fucking life insurance in it. Come on.
You will get found out. You will get found out. Come on. You're so stupid.
And it makes me sad too because they had a son and his mom is gone and his dad's in prison forever.
Exactly. Again.
Now he's parentless.
Yeah, one of those situations again. It's he's parentless because of these selfish acts from one of the parents trying to get rid of the other one for their own gratification. Look what you did. Ruined so many lives along the way just for your greediness and your money and your horniness for a young woman. So pathetic.
And of course he knew he could be able to get her, he could lure her in because, look at, I'm bringing you to the United States and offer you a better life and all this money. And especially if you're back then and money is so hard to come by. Mm-hmm. It's again, like you said, money makes people crazy and makes you do stupid things and stop doing stupid things for money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Jen, for that story. Awful story, as always.
I know. With a little bit of info, a little bit of extra info in there for you.
No, because that was last episode.
No, in this one, I mean, because I didn't know there was a air base it used to be in the Philippines. Now, so it's turned into a airport. That's what it turned into after what happened was there was oh God, I should have wrote this down. I think it was either an earthquake or an eruption, meaning a volcano. But I feel like that's not right. Hold on, let me see if I can remember again.
Was it a tsunami?
Or let me look. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a tsunami. Here, let me see really quick. It told me. I found, obviously I used Wikipedia to tell me what this was all about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it started as an army base, obviously military, a army base. Turned into a, whatever they called the U.S. Air Force before. I forgot. Oh my God, Jen, my brain. My brain.
Yeah, that when it branched from the
Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
Yes, the Army Air Corps, and then obviously when the Air Force formed. It was an air base.
Mm-hmm. My father-in-law actually went there, and he says, and it was in the 90s, so it was probably right before it closed. He said he remembers going there, and he bought the kids, like his kids, leather jackets with like Ninja Turtles stitched on it or something like that. Like they always talk about that and how cheap it was, and he was like, it was like $2 a jacket or something like that. And,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's crazy. So it says that Clark Air Base closed. There was like they had to get the Americans out because of something. Sorry. Again, something happened. Oh my good Lord, Jen. Anyway, but also the Philippine government refused to renew their lease to the Americans, so they had to shut it down and give it back to the Philippine government, and they turned it into a international airport.
Okay. But there's still military ongoings in the Philippines.
I mean, yeah, so there's still stuff, so there's still parts of it that are owned and operated by the Philippine Air Force, and they still retain the same name as Clark Air Base. So I'm assuming that's probably, I mean, unless there's somewhere else too that they go for, TDYs and such type of thing. But yeah, military is so like broad. It still blows my mind because I mean I know that there's bases, but the problem is I only know the bases that are active right now for us to like live at. I don't think of all the bases that the active duty member, can go to still, no matter what. I know there's Turkey, yes, because it, we used to be able to go there. Now you can't, and it's, but all these other places.
Did you know that there's one in Iceland?
See, I didn't know that.
I think there's one in Greenland too.
See, I didn't know that. I mean, but Dave's like, there's literally like a base anywhere you can possibly like go.
There's one in Poland because Kyle was supposed to go to Poland, remember? And his deployment got canceled. But that would have been fun. Like we couldn't go with him. It was just like it was a deployment for him. But that would have been cool because we could have visited when we were in the UK. But then it got canceled. Yeah. And I was actually kind of a blessing in disguise because he would have been returning at the very height of Corona. So he probably would have been stuck for a couple months in wherever he would have been
probably.
at. Yeah, which would have been really, really stressful on all of us. So, yeah. Thankful we didn't go through that. I'm sad we didn't get to go to Poland, but still. Anyways.
You never know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I like learning about all these bases that we had at one point too, that we could have gone to. Or I was like, is there any in Mexico? Can we go to Mexico?
Right.
In South America, like, can we help out our neighboring countries for any reason? How about Canada? Let's go to Canada.
Let's go to Canada. Yeah. It's just crazy because I just don't think about all that stuff. It just my husband's like, yeah, didn't you know? Like, of course there is. And I was like, no, I didn't know. Yeah. Why would I know?
Maybe we could put out a poll on Facebook or something being like, what's the weirdest place you've been stationed at?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I would love to hear that. Or send it to us. Like Yeah.
There's always bases that I just never have heard of before. And people were like, yeah, I was so-and-so here. And I was like, what? Yeah. That's crazy.
I know. That's like when we tell people we were stationed in Belgium, they're like, there's a base in Belgium? I was like, it's an air base, like it's Army run, but yeah. I was like, yeah, we were lucky enough to be there for 4 years. It's a super small place. Super small. But it was awesome. But I would love to hear if any of our listeners have ever been stationed at a location that doesn't exist anymore. Maybe like if you're like a military brat and you remember being, I don't know, somewhere like Greece or some cool location, let us know. Email us at dependasplaining@gmail.com. Or, let us know on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I'd love to know.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that would be great. Seriously. Let us know because that is, again, like I told you, it's just fascinating to hear all these places that once were no longer around, but just where they were too. I'm like, that's crazy. Crazy.
Yep.
So cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jen, again for that story.
Yes, you're welcome. Your weekly dose of murder.
Murder with a sprinkle of murder and a sign of murder dipped in murder.
That's our new theme song. You're welcome.
I make fun of my daughter like that because she loves fancy sauce. So she makes like ketchup and mayonnaise together and it's fancy sauce, right?
Yum.
Which, let me tell you, I have always called it fancy sauce, not just because that's what they called it on Step Brothers. It has always been fancy sauce to me. That was just a big coincidence. But yeah, so she does it. And I'm like, Harley likes to put fancy sauce on her fancy sauce with the side of fancy sauce. Dipped in fancy sauce. She puts it on everything. It's disgusting. I'll be like, steak, fancy sauce. Chicken, whatever, fancy sauce. Plain rice.
Chicken sounds good.
Plain white rice, fancy sauce. Plain white rice. I was like, no, thank you. Fancy sauce. She's crazy. Or ketchup, too.
Fancy. My kids like to mix the ketchup and mustard together.
Yum.
Like to dip with.
Yeah. So when we would go to Mexico, there's this guy that sells fries just out of his car, like a hot dog man, which also there's one of those too. But it was just fries, and like you go and get like a super order of fries, and he would put ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and hot sauce all over it. It sounds like a disgusting. No, it's really good. Yeah, it sounds disgusting to some people, but it was really delicious. And I was like, mustard on your fries? Yes, I'm here for it. It was really, really yummy.
That sounds so good.
Mm-hmm. Try it next time. Next time you have fries, be like, can I have some mustard too?
Yum. Yeah. That sounds delicious. I'd eat it. I love fries, so I'm down for all kinds of things on my fries.
Potato wedges? Those are my favorite. Yeah.
Some cheese and some
you know what
on there too.
You know what they sell at the commissary? You probably have it too. They have Arby's curly fries, like for a bag of frozen curly fries.
Yes, I think I have seen those.
Yeah, I have never in my life eaten at Arby's, and so I've gotten the fries.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And I'm like, listen, I'm 39 at this point. I don't care. I don't give a shit. Like, I've survived. And there's one on base, and I'm like, I don't care. So, but I was like, the curly fries, I was like, they're pretty good. Now I could say I've eaten Arby's without having to go to Arby's.
Yes, you can.
And
you need to have the roast beef. So you have to go to Arby's and have the roast beef.
That's what Kyle said too. And I was like, I don't know about, I don't know. I'd rather have like a roast beef sandwich from a deli.
It's so basic and delicious. It's like the bun they use is so good, and then it's nicely thin sliced, and then you don't have to do a lot to it. Just add some ketchup. Delicious. And then get some curly fries. You're good. Golden.
One of these days, maybe, if I'm starving enough. I'm so hungry.
You have like the most amazing food ever, so I definitely would choose all that over Arby's, but still, like, it's delicious.
There's an episode of The Simpsons where Bart is so hungry and he goes, I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's. And so we joke about that all the time because I've never eaten at Arby's. I'm like, I'm so hungry I could eat at Arby's. But my son loves the curly fries.
Not that great.
Yeah, my son loves them. And I put them in the air fryer for just a few minutes and they're so good. They're like crunchy and really soft in the middle.
Yes.
So he loves
the
those.
seasoning on the outside, yeah.
Yeah. Curly fries and those waffle cut fries. And potato wedges, they beat out the regular fry any day. Sorry.
It's true.
Unless
except I do
in Belgium.
I do. Oh my god, I do really like the thin fries.
Oh,
almost like shoestring fries. Those are good too. I love like thin fries.
Yeah,
too.
and I love the steak fries. They have to be like crispy though.
Yes.
Yeah, because then it's like a mouthful of mashed potatoes.
They can't be soggy. That's so gross. They have to be crispy on the outside, soft and warm and fluffy on the inside.
Yes. Okay, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go have breakfast, Jen.
I know. You go enjoy it.
I'm gonna go have some shrimpies at the Officers Club. Yay! I'm so excited.
Yummy. I'm gonna go eat lunch.
Okay. Oh, yeah, well, it's later with you. Well, thank you, listeners, for being here for us, and we're here for you. Thanks for your support. Make sure you rate and subscribe on your favorite listening platforms. And I already said rate and subscribe, right? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Reach out to us at dependasplaining@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. And tell your friends about us.
Yeah.
Share. And that's
Share
all.
it
That's all she
everywhere.
wrote, Jen. That's all.
Yep, that's all she wrote.
Great. And don't forget that wherever you go,